Most people don't lose control during a disaster. They lose it on a completely ordinary afternoon, a line curling around a gas station, an empty pharmacy shelf, a phone at 4%. No major catastrophe, just the small avoidable failures of someone who had months to prepare and didn't. Here's what almost nobody says. The things that disappear first aren't emergency supplies. They're ordinary products you've bought 100 times without thinking. They don't vanish because the world runs out. They vanish because millions of people decide they need that exact item at the exact same moment. And the window between something feels off and the shelf is bare doesn't stay open for days. In some categories, it closes in hours. Today, we're looking at 10 items, most of them cheap, all of them sitting on the shelf right now, but not for long. Let me show you exactly how this plays out, because the pattern repeats itself the same way every time. A storm gets named, or a supply chain headline breaks. Within hours, not days, gas station lines start stretching into the street. Some pumps run completely dry before nightfall. Here's what makes that strange. The gas itself never disappeared. Refineries kept running. Nothing in the supply chain actually broke down. What happened is much simpler. Millions of people decided to fill their tanks at the same moment, and a local distribution system built for steady daily demand couldn't absorb that sudden, synchronized pressure. The result isn't a shortage, it's a gridlock. Day 1, stations are a little busier, nothing alarming. Day 2, wait times stretch out. People show up with extra containers. Day 3, out-of-service signs start appearing, and that single image spreads faster than any headline, accelerating panic in surrounding areas before they've even experienced a shortage themselves. The 10 items we're covering today follow that exact same pattern. The window between something feels off and the shelf is empty is much shorter than most people think. One more thing before we get into the list. If this information is actually useful to you, do 3 things at once. Hit like, leave something in the comments below, doesn't need to be long, noted is enough, and subscribe if you don't want to miss videos like this. It takes 10 seconds, but it directly decides how many more people this video reaches. Starting at number 10. Number 10. Broad-spectrum medicine and basic first aid. Most people build their medical preparedness around the worst-case scenario, major injuries, hospital stays, events that require real medical infrastructure. And it's exactly that framing that leaves most households unprepared for what's actually likely to happen. The real risk isn't dramatic. A fever at 11 at night, 2 hours after the pharmacy closed. A child with an ear infection on day 2 of an outage. A cut from a routine activity that needs cleaning right away. Under normal conditions, these are minor inconveniences. Under disrupted conditions, stores crowded, shelves empty, movement limited, the same situations escalate fast. A fever treated within a few hours is one uncomfortable evening. The same fever, left unmedicated, drags on for days and affects the whole household. The list isn't complicated. Pain relievers, fever reducers, antihistamines, antiseptic, sterile gauze, adhesive bandages, a thermometer, and a small buffer supply of any prescription medications your household depends on. One more thing worth knowing. Over-the-counter pain and fever medication is among the first things to disappear off pharmacy shelves whenever a public health concern escalates. That's not a guess. It's a documented pattern from multiple real disruption events. The cost is low. What it buys you is the ability to manage your household's health on your own timeline instead of whatever's happening outside. The pattern is consistent. Small problems handled quickly stay small. The same problems handled late get bigger. And the difference usually comes down to whether the right supplies were within reach. Check this once a month. Rotate out anything expired. It's as simple a habit as a reminder on your phone. What happened during the major winter storm that hit Texas in 2021 is a real example of this. During days-long blackouts, pharmacies stayed closed. Hospitals ran far past capacity. And medical needs that would normally be minor became genuinely unreachable. Households with even a few days of buffer supply got through it relatively fine. The ones without became an extra strain on an already overloaded system. Number 9. Dried legumes and rice, stored in Mylar bags. This is the most fundamental calorie reserve on this list. Properly stored, in a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber inside a food-grade bucket. Documented testing shows it can last well past 15 to 20 years. This is something you want to buy before the price jumps. Because rice and legume markets are extremely sensitive to export restrictions and harvest swings, a bad growing season on one side of the world can show up on a shelf on the other side within weeks. Rice and legumes together deliver a complete protein profile, the most efficient calories per pound on this entire list, a foundation that can feed a family of 4 for weeks, or with the right rotation, for months. One detail to get right when bagging: match your oxygen absorber's capacity to the size of the bag or bucket. An absorber that's too small leaves residual oxygen behind, which shortens the storage life and can let pests or microorganisms survive. This item is the real foundation. Everything else on this list gets built on top of. Think of a family of 4. Rice is reasonably priced today, but if an export restriction or a bad harvest season hits, they could be paying a lot more for the same amount within a few months, or not finding it on the shelf at all. A few bags bought today are insurance, both financially and in terms of availability, and that insurance costs less than $1 a pound. Let me walk you through the Mylar bagging process quickly, because most people assume it's complicated and put it off it isn't. Pour the rice or legumes straight into a food-grade Mylar bag, drop in an oxygen absorber size to the bag, seal it almost all the way, press the air pockets out, then fully seal the remaining opening with an iron or a sealing tool. Place the bag inside a bucket. Snap the lid on tight. That's it. No special equipment or technical skill required. And in one afternoon, you can push dozens of pounds of food out to a 20 to 25 year timeline. Which legume you pick matters too. Lentils cook the fastest and use the least fuel, a real advantage in a scenario where cooking fuel is limited. Chickpeas and larger beans take longer to cook, but deliver a heartier texture. Keeping both on hand gives you flexibility whether fuel is scarce or not. Number 8. Cooking oil and ghee. Picture a family. The power's been out for days, the camp stove is ready, canned meat and vegetables are in the pantry, but once the oil runs out, everything on the plate either sticks and burns or never cooks properly. This is the easiest gap to overlook and the fastest one to notice, because the effect shows up immediately, at every single meal. It's the fastest thing to run out in the early days of a crisis, and it's the most calorie-dense food group on this list, roughly 9 calories per gram, more than double carbohydrates or protein. Fat is also required to absorb fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. A stockpile full of canned vegetables, legumes, and grains, but without enough fat, only delivers a fraction of the nutrition those foods actually carry. Ghee has one specific advantage over standard vegetable oil. With the milk solids removed, it stays stable at room temperature far longer than regular oil. No refrigeration required. Dark bottle, tight lid, cool dark storage. That's the entire protocol. Harvest problems in the regions where oilseed production is concentrated regularly send this category into swings, and the price increase usually gives very little warning before it hits the shelf. You can watch this pattern play out in real time. Drought news breaks in a growing region. Nothing changes in week 1. Shelves look completely normal. By week 2, a few brands start nudging prices. Most people don't even notice. By weeks 3 and 4, suppliers are repricing their own stock, and by then the price on the shelf is noticeably different from the day the news broke. Buying now means getting ahead of that delayed wave. Number 7. Portable power sources and solar chargers. A power outage doesn't feel serious in the first 15 minutes. You assume it'll resolve itself, so you wait. By hour 3, something quietly shifts. Your phone's at 28%. You've been trying to preserve it a few messages, a couple of news checks, but the battery's dropping faster than you expected. By hour 8, you're making decisions you didn't expect to make. Do I use the last charge to call someone? Do I even know what's happening outside? Can I coordinate anything from here? The goal of a portable power source isn't to recreate your normal setup that's not realistic, and it's not the point. The goal is narrow. Keep your phone charged, preserve internet access where possible, keep basic lighting running. A mid-range portable power station, or a high-capacity power bank, does this without any installation or expertise. But here's where most people quietly fail in this category. They buy the device, put it in a drawer, and 3 months later, when they actually need it, the battery's at 11%, and the thing is useless. An unmaintained power source isn't preparation, it's a false sense of preparation. And in some ways, that's worse than having nothing at all. because it removes the urgency to find a real solution. Keep it charged, keep it accessible, and when you use it, prioritize phone first, internet second, lighting third. Make checking the charge level once a month a habit, the same way you'd check a smoke detector battery. This is one of the most expensive pieces of equipment on this list, and the only thing that makes it useless is forgetting about it before you need it. During California's wildfire-related planned power shutoffs, the difference between households with a charged phone and those without was stark during multi-day outages. The ones who stayed charged could reach emergency services, coordinate with neighbors, keep working from home. The ones who ran out lost touch with information and communication for days. Before we keep going of everything so far, which one surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. I want to see which items people already have in their pantry or their bag. Why 10 days specifically? That's not a random number. Real supply chain pressure signals a headline, a weather forecast. An economic indicator usually take about that long to show up on the shelf. Nothing looks different in week 1. By the second week, prices and stock levels start actually reacting. 10 days is still an early window, one you can act in without triggering any panic once that window closes. Making the same decisions gets a lot more expensive, or a lot harder. Number 6. Water purification tablets and portable filters. Here's something rarely said. Outright water running through your tap isn't the same thing as safe water. Most people never think about this because they've never had to. Municipal water treatment is reliable under normal conditions, and that reliability turns into an assumption, and that assumption creates a blind spot. Water infrastructure, aging pipes, treatment plants running on aging equipment, distribution systems designed decades ago when those systems come under stress, flooding, power failures at pumping stations, contamination at the source water that keeps flowing may no longer be safe without treatment. Here's the part that makes this genuinely unsettling. Compromised tap water usually looks completely normal, clear, no obvious smell, visually identical to what you drink every day. You can't judge safety by looking at a glass of water, only by knowing the system that produced it is still intact. A portable water filter is the independent option, no power, fuel, or fire needed. Gravity-fed filters, pump filters, and filter straws can process water from a tap or another source and remove bacteria, protozoa, and many chemical contaminants. This isn't wilderness gear, it's a real backup for keeping your household functional when the system you normally trust can't be verified. One more thing worth knowing. Boil water advisories get issued more often than most people realize. Regularly following infrastructure events, floods, and contamination findings, and they require you to boil all water used for drinking, cooking, even brushing your teeth if your stove is electric and the power's out. You literally can't meet that requirement. A portable filter is the independent fix for exactly that gap. One example is enough to show how real this risk is. After a major flood or freeze event, a local water authority will issue a boil water advisory until the system's integrity is confirmed, meaning everyone in that area has to boil water before every use, including brushing their teeth. For a household with an electric stove and no power, that becomes a technically impossible requirement. A portable filter skips that whole loop, no boiling, no electricity, not even fire needed to make water safe. There's a distinction worth knowing when picking a filter. Straw-type filters are the cheapest and most portable option, but practical only for small amounts at a time. Pump or gravity-fed filters take longer to set up, but can process a family's daily water needs in one go. Keeping both one for your bag or vehicle, one for the house is the most balanced approach. Most filters have a cartridge that needs replacing after processing a certain volume, usually a few thousand liters, so don't forget to pick up spare cartridges. The filter alone isn't enough. Number 5. Canned proteins. Tuna, chicken, meat. Most of what we've covered so far has been about energy and infrastructure. The protein side was missing. Canned proteins can be eaten instantly with no cooking, and they carry real nutritional value alongside a long shelf life, 3 to 5 years, longer if the seal holds. By hour 12 of a power outage, once everything in the fridge has turned from a resource into a problem, canned goods are sitting there completely unaffected, the one protein source that keeps its full function no matter what. Variety matters. Tuna or salmon for omega, 3S, Chicken, for versatility, not relying on a single type, builds a stronger stockpile, both nutritionally and for morale. One storage note: never set canned goods directly on a concrete floor. The moisture that builds up underneath accelerates. Rusting on the bottom of the can, keep them on a shelf or a wooden pallet, cool and dry. One more thing: don't just pour out the liquid or oil inside the can added to a soup or to rice. Its flavor and calories you'd otherwise be throwing away for nothing. Where this item actually makes a difference tends to be more ordinary than you'd expect. During a long winter storm, roads can stay closed for days. Grocery deliveries can get delayed, and that's exactly when the fresh meat or chicken in your fridge is already starting to spoil. Canned goods are still fully reliable at that point, no cold chain dependency, no impact from delivery delays. It's the one category that can meet a family's protein needs completely independent of whatever's happening outside. Number 4. Butane gas cartridges and camp stoves. There's a gap in how most people think about food readiness. They think about how much food they have, not whether they can actually turn it into a meal. Those are two completely different things, and the difference becomes concrete the moment the power fails. Most American kitchens run on electricity, electric range, microwave, electric oven. When the grid goes down, so does every one of those appliances. Your pantry might have pasta, rice, canned beans, and soup, but without heat, most of that is either unsafe or simply not palatable. You're not short on food, you're short on the ability to use it. This has played out again and again in real disruptions: winter storms, hurricanes, extended regional outages. The consistent story from people who lived through them isn't "we ran out of food," it's "we had food we couldn't prepare." The fix takes up about one shelf, a portable butane or propane camping stove, and a small supply of fuel canisters. Together, they give you the ability to boil water, heat food, and prepare basic meals completely independent of the grid. Two things worth flagging here. First, these stoves and canisters sell out fast. Once a storm is forecast, if you don't already have one, you may find empty shelves. Second, and this one matters, combustion stoves should only be used outdoors or in well-ventilated spaces. Carbon monoxide buildup from indoor use has caused deaths during outages. This is a documented serious risk, not a footnote. Carbon monoxide is odorless and colorless. You can be poisoned without ever noticing, which is exactly why knowing how to use the stove safely matters as much as owning it. Store the canisters carefully away from direct sunlight and heat sources, somewhere cool. Pressurized gas canisters carry a real safety risk when exposed to excessive heat, so a cooler corner of the house is a better choice than a garage that can get very hot in summer. Number 3. Salt, sugar, and spices. Not just for flavor, they're needed to preserve and cure food, and their trade value is genuinely high too. The mechanism behind this is simple but powerful. Salt and sugar pull water out at the cellular level, stealing the moisture that bacteria and mold need to survive, which is exactly why both were among humanity's most reliable preservation tools thousands of years before refrigeration, and they still work on the same principle today. Salt is the oldest preservation method humans used long before refrigerators existed, the ability to keep meat, fish, and vegetables through the seasons. Sugar is a natural preservative in jam and canning, and a quick source of calories. Spices might look like a small line item on a stockpile list, but their real impact isn't small. The same base carbohydrates and proteins can turn into completely different meals with a few different spices, and it's the cheapest tool there is against something we mentioned earlier, appetite fatigue over a long rotation. All three are among the cheapest, longest-lasting items per pound on this whole list. Stored dry, away from moisture, their shelf life is close to unlimited. Worth mentioning their trade value too. In a long disruption scenario, small, light items everyone needs, like salt and spices, gain unexpected value in neighborly trade or barter. It's no accident that salt has literally functioned as currency at points in history. Number 2. Hygiene and cleaning products. Bleach, soap. This category usually gets overshadowed by food and energy items, but it's the cheapest, most effective weapon against illness in unsanitary conditions. During a period when access to clean water and regular hygiene is disrupted, simple hand washing and surface cleaning is the most basic way to prevent disease from spreading, not a hospital-grade intervention, just a consistent, ordinary habit. Bleach is also a multi-purpose tool. Diluted at the right ratio, usually a few drops per gallon, using plain bleach with no scent or dye additives, It can be used for water disinfection too, making it a two-layer solution for both cleaning and emergency water safety. Write that ratio down ahead of time, though trying to remember the correct dose in the middle of a crisis is risky, and having it written down before you need it matters as much as the application itself. Soap and cleaning products, sealed and stored dry, stay effective for years, one of the cheapest, longest-lasting categories on this whole list. If you remember what happened in the first weeks of 2020, that's real proof of how fast this category can empty out. The cause wasn't a production problem. Manufacturing kept running normally. Trucks kept moving normally. The cause was millions of people turning to the same product at the same time. A behavioral wave, not a supply problem. We're at the end of the list, and this last item is saved for last. For exactly that reason, its simplicity makes it easy to overlook, but it's actually the item that determines whether everything else on this list is usable at all. Number 1. Lighting LED headlamps and batteries. Forget the candle, this is the item that looks like it belongs at the bottom of the list, but should actually be at the top. When the power goes out, the first practical problem isn't food or water, it's darkness. And people's instinctive response to darkness is usually the least functional option available to them. Grab a flashlight or light a candle. Both provide light, but both create a problem the moment you try to actually do something. A flashlight occupies a hand every task during an outage. Finding supplies, preparing food, treating a wound, moving around the house, now happens one-handed, slower, more error-prone, more exhausting. Candles are worse. The light is stationary, dim, and unstable. In a disrupted house with tired adults, kids, or elderly family members around, an open flame isn't just a light source, it's a compounding hazard. A headlamp solves both problems at once. The light goes wherever you look, both hands stay free, brightness is adjustable. A quality LED headlamp runs 8 to 20 hours on a single set of batteries, with zero fire risk. The cost is usually low. For that price, you can move through a completely dark house at full capability. Without one, every other item on this list becomes harder to access, harder to use, harder to manage once the lights go out. Keep at least 2. Know exactly where they are. Keep the batteries fresh. This is the item that makes everything else on this list actually usable once it gets dark. One more note on batteries. Lithium batteries have a much longer shelf life than standard alkaline batteries and perform more reliably in cold weather, a real difference in northern climates, since outages tend to coincide with the harshest winter conditions. Test your headlamps annually, swap the batteries, and make sure the whole household knows exactly where they are. A headlamp you have to search for in the dark has already lost half its purpose. During California's planned power shutoffs to reduce wildfire risk, some areas stayed dark for days. Surveys from that period show the item people most often called simple but forgotten was exactly this. Not an expensive generator, just a working flashlight or headlamp. One more thing I need to add, because fitting all 10 items into your budget at once can be a real stretch. And spending unevenly without a plan is a mistake almost as costly as not preparing at all. Start with the 3 cheapest, highest impact items: a headlamp, a lighter, or matches, and salt, sugar, and spices. Together they probably cost less than a dinner out, but they're the foundation layer that makes everything else on this list usable. In the second wave, move to the mid-cost, high-impact items: canned proteins, a water filter, first aid supplies. Finally, complete the bigger single-ticket items: a portable power source, a camp stove, Mylar-bagged bulk food. As your budget allows, 10 days is plenty of time to work through these 3 waves. In order, no need to rush, but no reason to put it off either. None of these 10 items require a dramatic lifestyle change. No special setup, no warehouse club membership, no expensive gear beyond a Mylar bag and an oxygen absorber, and even those are cheap per unit. 2 items this month, 2 more next month, kept up consistently for 6 months. You've quietly built something most people who claim to take this seriously still haven't actually put together. Picture a family of 4. When they hear about a disruption or a crisis, grocery shelves are already empty, gas station lines have already formed, everyone's rushing toward the same thing at the same time. That family isn't in the middle of that chaos because 10 days earlier, when nothing felt urgent at all, they quietly finished this list. No panic, no lines, no competing with anyone. Just a list and a 10-day window. Picture this. It's day 3 of an outage, and your neighbor from across the street knocks on your door holding a dead flashlight. Batteries gone, no open store in sight. You're able to hand them a headlamp because you remember buying two. That moment isn't dramatic heroism, it's just the natural result of an ordinary decision you made 10 days earlier. Being prepared isn't building a bunker or overhauling your life, it's exactly this, making a few ordinary decisions before everyone else panics. Let me be clear about one more thing, because it's easy to miss while watching this list. None of these items are only for a disaster scenario. A headlamp earns its keep a few times a year during ordinary power outages. Canned protein earns its keep on a busy week when you don't have time to get to the store. A water filter earns its keep on a camping trip. These 10 items are part of ordinary life, not some rare catastrophe. The only difference between being ready and not shows up exactly when you actually need it. Which of these 10 items do you already have, and which one are you completing in the next 10 days? Leave it in the comments, it helps me know what to cover next. Subscribe to Stockpile Man, this is where we talk facts.